Hi, I'm Keith Kondrich, Executive Director for the Society of St. Vincent de Paul here in the Diocese of Pittsburgh. And for today's Monday meditation, I want to ask you a question. Are you willing to die for your faith? Are you willing to die for your faith? You know, our Christian tradition is full of martyrs, individuals, men and women who have literally given up their lives as a witness to their Christian faith. Even today, there are martyrs throughout our world, people who are willing to die, physically die, to give witness to Christianity. It's happening today just as it happened 2,000 years ago. And you know, few, if any of us, are going to ever be in a position to actually physically die for our faith. We're blessed to live in a nation where we're free to worship and believe as we choose. And religious persecution is more verbal than physical. Nonetheless, if we call ourselves followers of Jesus, we are going to have to die. Maybe not physically, but we are going to have to die in order to be fully alive in Christ. You know, in the Gospel of John, chapter 12, verse 24, the beautiful, powerful, but challenging passage when Jesus says to his disciples, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains just a grain of wheat. But if it dies, it produces much fruit. So what needs to die in your life in order to produce much fruit? Think about it. What fruit might be produced if you were to let your popular reputation die and invited that unpopular coworker or that unpopular neighbor out to lunch? What fruit might be produced in your life if you were willing to let your pride die and forgive and reconnect with that family member or loved one who has somehow hurt you or offended you in the past? What fruit might be produced in your life if you were willing to let your busy schedule die? Let your busy schedule die in order to be more present to your spouse and your children. What fruit might be produced in your life if you were willing to let your political party affiliation die in order to publicly promote the gospel of Jesus Christ? And what fruit might be produced in your life if you were willing to let your addiction to social media die in order to spend more time in prayer? You know, sometimes I think it would be a lot easier just to physically die a martyr's death, you know, go out in a blaze of glory, than to have to die to those things in our lives like pride and envy, prejudice, vanity, lust, and politics. Sometimes I think it would be easier just to die that physical martyr's death than to have to give up, to die to all those things that prevent us from fully bearing fruit as Christians. So as we enter into this new week as disciples of Christ, let's resolve to die for our faith. Let's resolve to die to that one thing in our lives that's holding us back from being fully alive in Christ. God bless you and have a great week.